So we're actually going to get started. Everyone, welcome. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with you today and share our experiences at Avenatt, the community we've built through our Black Employee Network, also known as Inspire, and to encourage you all to take the next step today to apply if you're interested. Before we get started, I would like to begin with a few housekeeping items. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so please don't worry about having to mute yourself. The call will be recorded and will be shared after the event. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the Ask a Question feature. And lastly, Avenatt will be collecting information through Microsoft Teams for a one-time post-event communication. Your attendee information will be deleted from all of our records afterwards per Avenatt's global data policy and policy. So let's get started with our agenda. We will start with a brief welcome video featuring our CEO, Pam Maynard, followed by an introduction into Avenatt, our Black Employee Network, also known as Inspire, and our 5 panelists. In today's session, we'll hear about personal experiences, stories, and opportunities to apply to Avenatt if you're interested. And at the end of the event, there will be a live Q&A where you can post questions. Unfortunately, we are concluding Black History Month, but for me, it's every day. Let's hear Pam's thoughts on what Black History Month means to her. Corinne, over to you.
I've always seen Black History Month as both a time to celebrate the achievements of Black people and also to recognise that racism is not a thing of the past and we must do everything in our power to challenge its roots in our culture. Personally, as a Black leader, I welcome the opportunities to connect with people during this month and have conversations and the chance to share my journey with others, particularly young people, so that they might find confidence and inspiration in seeing someone who looks like me walk an unconventional path to become a global CEO. This past year, we've seen both sides of that coin so clearly. We reflect on the accomplishments that helped us to get where we are today, and also understand that we must opt in more than ever and acknowledge the work ahead of us. There is both joy and pain in Black History Month, and it is a beautiful reminder that both can exist at once and together. Inclusion and diversity are cornerstones of Avenatt's culture, but after the global protests erupted last summer and the continued tension in our social and political climates, I felt these principles were more important than ever. Like so many, I was recently moved by Amanda Gorman's recitation of her inauguration poem, The Hill We Climb. The whole thing was beautiful, but the line that grabbed hold of me the most was, "It's the past we step into and how we repair it." This is what Black History Month is all about. We're stepping into our past, acknowledging it, commemorating it, celebrating it, but then also looking to repair it. Amanda's poem is a passing moment to breathe, to be inspired, but then to move forward, holding close to our hearts the courage to continue to press on. Let this Black History Month serve as the same kind of moment, to breathe in together before continuing to honour those who came before us by putting action behind our intent, and working together to create real, positive, and lasting change.
I am very thankful for Pam's leadership, and I actually want to start off by introducing myself. I am the moderator for today's event. My name is Dominique Cunningham. I've been with Avenatt for a little over 3.5 years, and I belong to the Global Growth and Strategy Change team. I recently made a pivot from data and AI, and happy to be taking on a new journey. So I want to start by talking a little bit about Avenatt. and who we are. Avenatt is a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. We are a global company with over 80 offices in 25 countries, and we have nearly 40,000 employees. And we'll pivot to the next slide. As a technology-focused consulting firm, we seek to make a genuine human impact in everything that we do. And this shines through our client work and, most importantly, through our culture that we've built internally. As the leading provider of innovative digital and cloud services, business solutions, and design-led experiences, we successfully deliver through the power of our people and the Microsoft ecosystem. Many will tell you, you can check out Glassdoor reviews, friends, people who leave and come back to Avenatt, that the best part of Avenatt is our people. This especially comes to life through our employee resource groups and networks. These internal networks build community and provide opportunities for our employees to gain visibility and advance their careers. Our event today is hosted by Inspire, our Black Employee Network. Inspire is a community that champions and empowers Avenatt's Black and African American employees and allies. Based in North America, Inspire is an acronym, and it stands for Investing in the Next Set of Pioneers, Innovators, Researchers, and Engineers. Currently, Inspire has more than 130 active members who chat, strategize, and collaborate via Yammer and other internal social platforms. We host community events, facilitate educational outreach, and participate in philanthropic activities. As with all ERGs and affinity groups, membership is open to all employees without regard to race, creed, or color. Inspire's co-chair, Crystal Tyler, says, Inspire has many goals, but with the one that's closest to her heart is to provide a network of support that employees feel comfortable to use available resources to build themselves mentally and professionally. Inspire will drive innovation at Avenatt and will be the catalyst for recruiting and retaining diverse top talent while addressing racial ethnic disparities in STEM. Inspire has also built strong relationships with our community and professional organizations such as NSBE, also known as the National Society of Black Engineers, to support events for school children and promote STEM education, and the National Dress for Success program, supporting a clothing drive designed to provide professional clothing and apparel for women entering and re-entering the workforce, including many of whom were victims of domestic abuse. So I know that was a lot of talking. Let's now pivot to our panelists. They'll share a 30-second intro with everyone. And to keep things easy, we are going to introduce everyone in alphabetical order, which means AJ, you're up first.
I'm actually going to just take up for AJ.
Sure.
My name is Bami. I'm a consultant here at Avenatt, and I've been at Avenatt for about 2.5 years. I'm an advanced analytics consultant who specializes in business intelligence. At Avenatt, I think my favorite part of Avenatt is just the support that I have from everyone, be it in my analytics team, be it in other teams that they have been. And I'm very excited to tell you about my experience today.
Thanks, Bami, and we'll move forward with Carrie. And if, Carrie, you're having some trouble, we can circle back around to you and we'll move to Rogelio.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rogelio Taylor. I'm a senior consultant here at Avenatt. I have been here for about 2.5 years. I'm in the cloud engineering space, and I will be happy to share with you anything that you need to know about what we do here at Avenatt as best I can.
Thank you, Rogelio. Steve, on to you.
Hi, everyone. Steve Buchanan here. I'm a director in the cloud infrastructure space with Avanade. I have 20+ years of experience in tech, Microsoft MVP, as well as an author, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this panel today.
Great, thank you. AJ, were you able to get back on?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, my name is AJ Penting, and I'm a Senior Analyst at Backend Development in software engineering in the software engineering talent community. I'm the regional champion for Inspire, which means I represent Canada and promote Inspire's mission statement within Canada. I'm a hobbyist writer, and I'm a passionate helper, which means I have a passion for helping people.
Thank you, AJ. And Carrie, are you on?
Yep, I'm here. Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Alexander. I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, but I currently reside in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm based out of Avanade's New York City office. Currently, I'm a senior analyst in Avanade's security practice or talent community. And I'm also a part of the Inspire Black Employee Network leadership team, serving as the Northeast Regional Champion. So similar to AJ, I do some of the same type of work that she does for Canada within the Northeast region in the US.
Thanks, Carrie, and thank you, everybody. We'll now have the opportunity to move forward with our panel. And as we are speaking, audience, if there's something that resonates with you, or if you have a question, please enter it in the chat and we'll cover it in our Q&A session later on today. So now let's actually move with our first question. I'm going to talk to all of you, but I'll address you by name. So we know that Avenatt employs tech consultants. Please tell us what an average week in the life of a consultant looks like. And AJ, I'll start with you.
So it does vary from project to project, and that's part of what I liked about working at Avenatt. In the before times, it might have included a trip to a coffee shop on the way to my desk at the client office or at my Avenatt office. If I'm between projects, for me, every day starts with like checking through my email, making sure that I haven't missed anything or I don't have any important tasks that I need to be aware of at the top of the day. And then there may be a meeting to sync with my team before we get heads down into work. And then it could be hours of coding before hitting lunch break with podcast music or YouTube videos in the background. And this is from Monday to Friday with the occasional sync with coworkers, not on my project, either through Toastmasters, Literature Club, or other events going on, including ones hosted by Inspire and other ERGs. It is in my nature to try to stay tuned into what's going on with the company, as well as signing up for so many clubs and extracurriculars. So it's rare that I don't have some webinar or community meeting on my calendar. Of course, I decline if I have urgent client work that I need to focus on, because the priority is always with your client work.
Thanks, AJ. And Bambi, what about for you? What does an average week for you look like in the consulting world at Avenatt?
Oh man, I can't say I have the same week every week. This morning I had my perfect morning planned. I had a report that I needed to send out, and I had to prepare for a presentation, and I didn't get to do any of that because we had an emergency where the government was asking us for data. So it really depends on our client needs. Sometimes we're really busy and there's no breathing space, and other times you do have it is a bit you do have some downtime time where you can go ahead and do your extracurriculars. So it's really difficult to say this is the typical day, expect the unexpected. You might plan something and somebody at 8 p.m. has decided we need this before noon the next day. So I think what consulting has really taught me is just to be flexible and agile, and that is it's a key to success in any industry, basically.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. And Rogelio, anything you want to add about what your typical week looks like?
Well, a typical week is usually filled with a number of meetings and a lot of important project items that are on schedule, which usually we wind up having to move in between, in, out, and around, because just like as my colleagues stated, there's always something that comes up when you least expect it. And we have to be fluid. We have to be dynamic. We have to land on our feet. So that is, in a way, what a typical week looks like. That plus a lot of coffee.
Oh yeah. And Steve, any thoughts from you on your typical week?
Yeah. So just like the other panelists said, right? No 2 weeks are the same. So, meetings, important meetings with clients, different projects. For example, today I presented a solution to a client, and then working sessions. There might be planning sessions, leading a team. So it's all over the place, which is great. I love the variety. And sometimes we have meetings with Microsoft. We might have internal things that we're doing like this, where we get to work with our colleagues. So there's a lot of variety, which keeps things exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely one of the reasons I joined consulting too. We'll pivot to our next question. So AJ, this one I'll let you get started with. What was your most memorable project?
Although I've had interesting opportunities to explore frameworks like Azure Functions or Signal R, I think my most memorable project was probably based around Power Apps development for a major grocery chain. When Power Platform was in its infancy. It was a pretty big Power Platform project at the time, especially because Power Platform was in its infancy. So it was interesting to learn, to ramp up on this new technology and engage with it as it was coming up. Especially because I thought it was a very interesting and useful offering by Microsoft. For those who don't know, the idea behind Power Platform is to enable non-developers, or what they call citizen developers, to create apps and workflows to ease, simplify, and improve various processes and tasks in their everyday life. However, we were really pushing the platform because the client was using it more as for the purpose of the project is more of a shortcut to developing instead of developing an application from scratch. So we really got to play with, challenge, and work around some of the limitations of the software at the time. And but it was an opportunity to pick up new skills and play with interesting technology, as well as creatively solve interesting problems.
I like that. That's good stuff. Bammy, what about your most memorable project?
I started talking on mute. My most memorable project will have to be the project that I'm on now. I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing called COVID that has basically stopped the world. I'm currently working on a government project in which they're dispersing loans to small businesses. I think for me, it's just the fact that I can work in something memorable and something that's happening now. So I don't care about the technology. I don't care about what it is. It's just the fact that Avenatt is doing something to help solve people's problems with COVID. So I work on the reporting end of things. So we're looking at dispersing the loans, how much of the loans have been dispersed, the number of loans, what different categories. But like I said, the reason why it's so memorable to me now is because we are actively doing something to help other people. And for something that is so huge, I'm going to look back in 10 years and be like, yes, I worked on a COVID relief project and we were able to help over 800,000 small businesses just keep afloat.
That sounds great. Thanks, Bammy, for that. Carrie, what about your most memorable project?
So my most memorable project would actually have to be my very first project. When I got to Avenatt, it was actually one of our largest client accounts that we had at the time. I got to be on an amazing team that was actually led by one of the top Azure infrastructure and Azure security experts across Avenatt, Accenture, and Microsoft. And so our client was going through a huge divestiture where they were being split into 3 separate companies. So my team was responsible for guiding them through pretty much the end-to-end process of achieving what we were calling Azure independence. So as a part of the divestiture, they needed to separate their Azure cloud environment from the other companies that they were going to be including in the separation and the divestiture. And their end goal was to be able to achieve the ability to effectively operate their own Azure ecosystem independently. So I got to work very, very closely with a lot of the client's IT leadership to understand any gaps that may have been in knowledge, also in available cloud-focused roles within their IT department. Got to work on some data governance work as well. And, I was pretty instrumental in implementing the mobilization plan for how we were going to help them to achieve that Azure independence. So that project ended up being a really great first project, got a lot of firsthand experience, got to work with some of the top experts in that space. And it ended up snowballing into 2 more projects down the road that focused on cloud security implementation. So this led me to something else that allowed me to have firsthand experience, security experience, and enabled me to start to build my my security expertise very, very early in my career.
Thanks, Carrie. And Rogelio, your most memorable project?
My most memorable project was also my first project, and I can tell you, I worked downstream from Carrie, doing a lot of client-facing work, having to work directly with those individuals to figure out what their needs were, how best we could meet them. My role in that case was about application migration, figuring out all the different parts and moving pieces of, say, 4,000, 5,000 different applications, identifying those parts and pieces and having them separate or migrate or completely shut down, depending on what the customer, what their demands were. And in the course of all that, learning a lot about the organization, Avenatt itself, meeting a lot of the same engineers and a lot of the experts that Carrie talked about, and diving deep into a lot of the technology that the customer had been using and how we as Avenatt helped the client successfully make those adjustments and those changes so that they could fully stand on their own based on what their needs were. So that was really one of the most memorable project of the ones that I've been on so far.
Thanks, Rogelio. And we'll pivot to our third question for today. And this question is tailored for everyone, but I'm going to start with AJ. So AJ, how has your Inspire network impacted your employee experience?
So for me, I was involved in Inspire pretty early on, like from the beginning. I was tapped to kind of represent and lead Canada. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I was ready for that level of responsibility and leadership. And to be honest, I still wonder sometimes if somebody else would be better suited for the role. But I also knew that if it wasn't me, who else would it be? So in that way, Inspire has, over the past 2 or so years, really forced me to step up, to take on leadership and responsibility that I would ordinarily try to avoid, and learn to manage that. And so it's really been pivotal in my growth as a leader and a consultant at Avenatt. Aside from that, it's also been a great opportunity to meet inspiring and amazingly driven and passionate people at Avenatt. I'm in awe of some of the stuff that my coworkers on the other side of the border have been able to accomplish. I know that me and Carrie have also been lumped together for a lot of the work that we've kind of spearheaded. And they have inspired me and motivate me and encouraged me in ways that I really might not have found otherwise. In addition, it's exposed me to people who will put their money where Avenatt's mouth is, to show that there are people, not just active in Inspire, but in the organization as a whole, that truly care about their employees and improving the employee experience.
Thanks so much for that, AJ. And Bammy, what about you? How has Inspire helped you or impacted your experience at Avenatt?
So I remember my last project. I was on it for a while, and we had this really difficult thing that I needed to do, and I wasn't getting. It was just everybody was really busy. I couldn't get any support, and I remember just sitting on my laptop crying. And then an Inspire ping came up, and I was like, "Hey, there's all these fantastic people in the US who could help me." And literally, I reached out to somebody in Inspire, and within an hour, I was on a call with someone. So it's just having an extra hand, like, hey, I don't know this. Somebody in Inspire will surely have an answer. And so I know, for some people, it's really helped in their development. It's building a community, especially for something where we've all been working remotely. I don't feel as awkward reaching out to somebody in the States because I'm sure everybody's reaching out to them virtually. So Inspire has really created a community within Avenatt in which there's any issues that you may have. I mean, I've even taken away from just project issues. Hey, how do I address this problem? There's somebody in Inspire that you can go to them. So it's been really helpful in that sense.
Thanks, Bammy. And Carrie, what about you?
Yeah, I second everything that AJ and Bammy said. And in addition to those things, I would say Inspire has definitely had an extremely positive and empowering impact on me as an Avenatt employee, but also in my development as a leader. So as the Northeast Regional Champion for Inspire, I've been able to pretty much lead the charge or lead efforts for building that community within the Northeast region for our Black employees, as well as just other employees that are of African descent, right? And so I've gotten some insane opportunities now that I think about it to do stuff within Avenatt. For example, I've gotten to host a one-on-one fireside chat with our CEO, Pam Maynard, literally right after she was appointed. I think I may have actually been the first person that got to actually interview her or speak with her in that capacity right after her appointment. So, it was an amazing experience, very nerve-wracking, but an amazing experience nonetheless. I've gotten other opportunities such as being selected to help in some of Avenatt's inclusion and diversity efforts in collaboration with our CEO, with the chair of Avenatt's board, with our chief HR officer. I've participated in the planning of Avenatt's first Black History Month and their Juneteenth celebrations. So, these are just some of the opportunities that I've had. I've gotten to collaborate with some of our other employee networks and ERGs, like Adelante, where I actually worked with them to create the first Inspire Adelante collaboration series that focuses on the African diaspora and its impacts in Latin America, which is something that's never really been done before or hasn't been talked about too much. So it's giving me opportunities to bring events and educational components, right, and outreach opportunities to that community that I'm actively trying to build within the Northeast region, but also within the Black community within Avenatt as a whole. And so, all of these things I would say are opportunities that have allowed me to make a major contribution to the Avenatt fabric overall. And to be honest, I don't know that I would have had all of those great opportunities to do so if it wasn't for Inspire.
That's powerful, Carrie. Thank you. And Rogelio, how has Inspire impacted your employee experience?
There we go. Excellent. So, Inspire literally brought together a lot of the Black and brown faces that in my time with the organization I had not yet met. So by exposing me to these individuals, such wonderful individuals such as yourself, Dominique, and Carrie and Corinne. So what it's done for me is really helped me understand that there's tremendous leadership in the organization, tremendous knowledge within the teams. And so understanding that by meeting these individuals has shown me that there's a place for me here. A lot of organizations have where I have been prior, the leadership has not necessarily reflected the team on a whole. So at Avenatt, I've come to recognize that there is opportunity for professional growth and personal growth, and I'm excited for both. And in my time here at Avenatt, I've not been disappointed. I came in as a cloud engineer. I've had an opportunity to flex those skills. I've had an opportunity to lead teams dynamically, globally, domestically, and meet a lot of very sharp and amazing people. And so Inspire's really encouraged that I become a little bolder in my pursuits because they encourage you to speak up here. So I'm really looking forward to what the future holds overall.
That's dope. Thank you, Rogelio. And Steve, we'll pass it off to you about Inspire and your employee experience.
Thanks. So Inspire to me is huge, right? I've been at Avenatt for 3.5 years, and I was here when Inspire started to take shape. And just to see the team behind it as it was taking shape was just an amazing process. And to see Inspire go from an idea to an actual full functioning ERG was amazing. And many of us are on, different projects. We're in different regions and different countries, and Inspire is a way to, for me, it was a way to, network with my colleagues that look like me, and to see that, Avenatt is not just saying, hey, we're about diversity and inclusion, but actually to see that there are a lot of African Americans that work at Avenatt. We just may not see each other every day on projects. And so it's a great way to just bring us together and network. And then the events that Inspire puts on are always phenomenal. I wish there was more time to have more of those events, and they've been, things from just showcasing different leadership to talking about Black history, even financial management and stuff, just amazing events. So it's been a really great group to just expand the network inside of Avenatt and really meet some great people.
Steve, thank you. We're actually going to stay on you because I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share some of the highlights from the recent podcast, Blacks in Tech, and some of that work that you're doing in and out of Avenatt to increase opportunities and community for young Black students in STEM.
Yeah, definitely. So recently I was on a podcast for Blacks in Technology. And for those that don't know about Blacks in Technology, it's actually a global organization now with chapters all across the US. And I know they have some chapters in Africa and in Europe and other parts of the world. And they're just continuing to expand. And Blacks in Technology is basically like user groups. Think of it kind of as an extension of like ERGs, where you can go there and hear speakers talk about different things. Well, I was featured on one of their podcast episodes, and we geeked out and talked about a lot of technical things, but then we also talked about, being Black in technology and what that's like, and talked about changing the narrative to help others see representation and see that, what they can achieve, and that tech is a good field where you can earn a good living, and it's not just like all nerds, and it's a fun career, right? And it's, we want to attract more African Americans to it, and so we just talked about that and talked about changing that narrative, and we dove into other topics as well. But that spun into a blog on Avanatt's site, and other things that I'm doing too, just inside of Avenatt, is just trying to mentor folks and really help, other African Americans, or really anyone in general that wants to go into leadership, just try to coach them and help them and mentor them on how they can do that. As well as outside of Avenatt, just participating in things like Blacks in Technology also has a conference. And there's other groups like BDPA, and there's other groups like MN STEM Partnership is a local group in Minnesota. That's where I'm from. And they always have programs for youth to, whether it's free coding classes or different, events to expose them to technology. And so I try to stay involved in different things as time allows.
Steve, thanks for that. And I know, just a quick plug, I hope we can do a podcast together someday. We recently had a really great convo, and I think that'll just be really great. So anywho, I am actually going to pivot to our last question. This is for everybody. AJ, we'll start with you. But as we wrap up the panel, can you share some tips for interviewing and or navigating your career, whether it's at Avenatt or just in general?
So I think the main tip that I would have is a paraphrase from my father, and it's about being open to explore opportunities that might not be on your radar. Like in his case, he's also in consulting. He's in an environmental consulting, and that was something that he did not deliberately seek, but he took an opportunity because it was close by. It fit his needs at the time. Similarly, when I was applying for work out of school, I wasn't intending or planning specifically to go into consulting. But when I got the interview for Avenatt, I decided to be open and to explore it and to try it instead of focusing on solely getting software development roles. And I think now more than ever, it's important to be open to exploring different and unexpected opportunities, even within the company. There are tons of people, not just me, but there are other people who have ended up in jobs that they never would have guessed, that they never would have picked, but they decided to take a chance and take an opportunity. So to summarize, just be open to exploring different options. Don't always be married to a plan or to a specific career path or job title.
Thanks, AJ. And Bammy, what tips or suggestions would you give for navigating your career?
Sorry, I keep talking on mute. I will just start with some tips about interviewing. So I do most of the college or first step interviews for analytics, and I always tell people I don't care about your skills. You're already in front of me because you have the skills. I want to see that I can put you in front of the client and I'm not going to be terrified, or that I'm not going to be worried about what you're going to say. So definitely when you're interviewing, and I think this is across the board, make your personality shine through. That is what I'm interested in. How engaging can you be? Being smart is great, but there are a lot of smart people in the world. What makes you different is really your personality. Somebody told me this when I was just coming from university. They said, especially in consulting, if I'm hiring you, I'm thinking about, do I want to be stuck on a plane with you for 10 hours should something crazy happen? So definitely, it's not just about how great you did in school. Your personality is definitely as important as how smart or how skilled you are. Now, for navigating your career, and this is something that has worked excellently for me, think about what your long and short-term goals are, because that will determine the steps, the choices, the conversations, the projects. It will determine everything that you've done. Sometimes it may happen consciously, sometimes it happens unconsciously. But I have found that, I remember when I started at Avenatt, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do and this is what I want to do. And obviously be rigid, right? You don't want to be just stuck in a, hey, this is what has to happen by then and then, because sometimes it happens later than you think, and sometimes it happens quicker than you think. So just make sure that you have some sort of idea of what you're hoping to achieve within the next 5 years. And I have found personally, and I give this advice to anyone, that you tend to take steps that would take you there.
Thanks, Bammy. Carrie, any suggestions you want to provide?
Yeah, so actually I have two for interviews and one for navigating your career. The two for interviews, first, I would say be honest, sell you and be authentic to what it is that you bring to the table, both technically, but as Bammy said, most importantly, as a person, right? Your personality is going to be pivotal in your career progression, because people want to know who you are as a person, right? The second thing for interviewing, I would say, is anything that you put on your resume, always be prepared to speak to it. So include things that you want to talk about and things that align to your interests. Anything that you don't want to talk about, or anything that that you may not feel comfortable speaking to, it's probably best to leave it off. Otherwise, you may end up getting asked about it. And then the last one, it would be for navigating your career. Something that I've learned a lot during my time here at Avenatt through speaking to mentors and other folks, and things that I've observed as well, is self-advocacy is critical to being in the spaces and having access to the interests that you want, and also in your ability to dictate your own future. So no one's a mind reader, right? No one knows what you want to do unless you tell them. And so once you do tell them, keep telling them, right? Keep speaking up on your own behalf, and people will pay attention. You keep telling them, you keep saying, hey, like, I want to be in this space, or hey, I'm interested in this. How do I get there? Advocating, speaking up for yourself is very, very key to being in the spaces and the interests that you want.
Carrie, that's great. Thank you. Rogelio, anything you want to add?
Well, it seems that everyone has pretty much said any and everything that I could possibly think to say, but honestly, it really is about being your authentic self. I mean, when you came through the door, your resume was the baseline and put you in front of that individual. Now it's really about sharing with that individual who you really are. No one is a mind reader, so it's important that you speak up and you share with them about what your plans are, and in your own way, how your personality, your work history, all that stuff, how you best benefit the company. Now, as far as your career goes, yes, my mother used to say this. I say this to my own daughters: a closed mouth does not get fed. You must speak up. absolutely you must speak up and share what your thoughts are, your concerns are, and you will be heard. You will absolutely be heard. It's important that you speak out because one of the things I was told when I came through the door is your career here is your own. You must advocate for yourself in so many different ways to ensure that you get exactly what you're looking for. And so I've managed to do that since I came through the door, and I am moving in the direction that I have selected for myself. So that is the best advice I can give you. Absolutely.
Thanks, Rogelio. And Steve, I know everyone has sort of, drained this question, but if there's anything you want to add, let me know.
Yeah,
let us know.
It's all good. So I'm actually going to flip the question around and start with the navigating first and then touch on the interviewing. So the navigating starts actually before you get to the interview. So when you're navigating your career, you really want to take some time and map out your career. You can do this at any time. You need a guide on where you want to go, and this is going to force you to think about your dreams and your goals and where you want to get to. And so you really want to map out your career. And then once you've done that, you want to network like crazy, right? And you can start that while you're in college. You can start that no matter where you are in your journey, but you want to keep networking and never stop, no matter what level in your career you're at. And that networking might land you that interview. So that's why this navigating piece starts before the actual interview. And then just go after your dreams and your goals, right? You've mapped them out in that career map, and you started networking, and now you need to really go after those dreams and those goals, and make sure you're communicating those along the way. Communicate those with folks that you're networking with, communicate those when you're on jobs. And some of the other panelists have said this too, right? You need to be an advocate for yourself. And then when you get to the interview, make sure you prepare ahead of time, and then go to the interview and relax and just be yourself.
I love it. Thank you. All right, well, that actually concludes our panel. So thank you for everyone for taking the time to share your experiences, giving the attendees a look into tech consulting at Avenatt and the community we've built through Inspire. I hope everyone continues to post questions into the chat because we will be answering those shortly. Corinne, I'm actually going to pass it over to you to walk us through career opportunities at Avenatt.
Well, thank you so much. Well, this panel truly is so inspirational. So it's been such a great experience for me. So I'm going to keep this short. My name is Corinne Long. I support our North America talent acquisition team with events and marketing. And so I have been kind of behind the scenes helping to coordinate this event and wanted to just share some insights from our recruiting team. So that's what I'm here to do. So really, what do we do? I think you probably heard it enough from all of them, but we are a consulting workforce. That's really where we are at the larger level. So we have project managers, we have software engineers, we have business analysts, we have data analysts, and we also have a full team that works on our creative side as well. So technologists that are in user experience and visual design and front-end developers. So really crosses the gamut, and you've obviously had a chance to hear from a multitude of people from some of those different talent communities. So in terms of what is a talent community, it's really just your career area of interest. So these are some of the ones that we are hiring for the most when we think about technology. So whether that's from analytics all the way to software engineering, as I've talked about, project management for us, we refer to as delivery management, as you're delivering a project for a client. So if you see those roles, you're interested in that, that would be a good fit for you. Some of the teams that we didn't get to hear from today, but are from our sales team, our CRM and ERP team that are working on business applications, some of our change enablement, as well as our advisory team. So a variety of different roles to offer all different types of opportunities. Also layering on with that is different levels. So for this event, we primarily are focusing on our professional hiring. So partly just due to the season. So when we think about early talent, we do a tremendous amount of early talent hiring, and that's both at the intern level as well as at the analyst, at that first, new grad position. So those are opportunities that we have However, most of that recruitment cycle is done in the fall season, so most of those positions have been filled. There are a couple openings, so you may see a few on the online. Feel free to consider those. But ultimately, right now, where we're hiring the bulk of hires is within that experienced professionals, and that could be anyone with 12 months of experience to, 25 years of experience. So whatever you that kind of gamut runs for you, we are looking to hire at all different levels. All right. And then finally, I want to share with you some of the things that we offer you. So it is a two-way street, and I think it's important to note that we are offering a tremendous amount, and I'm seeing some people in the chat saying they're not seeing, hopefully the video is still working for everyone. So I apologize, I'm running producer and presenter mode, so hopefully it's working okay. But wanted to make sure that you also understand that we offer what we offer to you as employees. So one is those challenging and personalized career paths. So no path is the same. Ultimately, you have control over that, and it can be determined based on all these different projects you're working on. I know the panelists did share some of the projects they've been on. And these projects can be very short-term projects. Maybe it's a couple months, and some are longer-term projects where we are helping a client for years, and you may be on that client project for several years, or you could be on it for a temporary amount, just to help with one portion of it. We also work in all different industries. So you may be on one project helping the government, as Bammy was sharing her story, or you may be on a retail project the next time. So you have offered opportunity to really explore and then possibly become a SME. So become that subject matter expert in one of those industries, or maybe you choose that you'd like to really have that variety. We offer technical career paths for leadership as well. So if you're not looking to maybe lead a team, but you want to continue to lead technology, we have those opportunities. We offer training. So all of our consultants get access to all of Microsoft's as well as Accenture's database of training. So there's tremendous amounts. There's Microsoft certifications galore, and training is really a part of our culture in terms of growth mindset. We need to constantly be learning all of the new technology and staying on top of it. So you do get 80 hours of paid training at a minimum each year. Many take on more. And then we are encouraging people to make sure they're exploring new ways of working. And part of that has obviously been, because of the pandemic, we've been forced to do some, but I think so much of it was where we were going anyway as an organization. And that's really offering flexible work. And that doesn't just mean about your schedule. So maybe for myself, I'm part of the pilot where I'm working Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days. We also have those that are saying, okay, I can work, really it works well for me if I can spend 3 hours in the evening really knocking out things without meetings, or trying to adjust your schedule when you have things to do. So there's a lot of flexible work and opportunities there. And then lastly, it's really about changing the world. So technology is a part of how we're doing that, but ultimately we're looking for people that want to drive and create a great human impact. So how can you keep in touch? So we did want to make sure that registration to attend this event was as easy as possible. So to attend, you're here. We are so glad you're here. The next step is we would love for you to register within our talent community. So we hope you'll take just a couple of minutes to create a profile with Avenatt. You can do so and get VIP access by registering via this event, or you can find a career opportunity that you want to apply for, of course, and go through that directly. You could also do both, right? You can register for this event and then find an opportunity. So want to make sure that everyone on this call that is attending, please make sure you register. Let us know that you're here. Part of the way that we've set this up is that everyone can join anonymously, so we may not know that you're here, so please make sure you do let us know. Once you've created your profile, you can then go upload your experience, your resume, anything else, and the way you want to be contacted. And then finally, it's our turn. Really, it's our turn as recruiters to make sure that we're reviewing and seeing if you are a fit for current roles and maybe future opportunities. We've got, hundreds of opportunities right now just within North America, and that increases dramatically when you think about the whole globe. So thank you so much. We'll put those links in the Q&A chat, as well as after the event. We'll post it in the LinkedIn event so you can get that access too. And now we're going to go to our Q&A session. So I will turn it back over to Dominique.
Thanks, Corinne. And we're going to use these last 12 minutes to answer live Q&A or questions from the chat box. So one of them that I see is, how do you advocate for yourself to superiors? Do you request feedback on your performance? And Steve, I'll let you answer that one first.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a great one, right? I'm in leadership, so and so I know what it's like on both sides of that coin. So the answer is no. Do not wait until the performance review to advocate yourself to leadership. Do that throughout. If you do something great, if you've accomplished something great on a project, it doesn't hurt to just shoot an email to your leadership, right? Direct leader, other leaders in your region, folks would care about it. And don't be worried about, am I bragging on myself or anything like that, or seeming like you're prideful or anything. It's good to communicate to leadership because they may not know what you're doing on a project. They may not know what sort of impact you have. And it's okay to ask for feedback from folks that you're working with too. So don't let that stuff wait until the end of the year at your performance review. Do it during the year and keep track of that stuff. Leadership actually loves to hear when, folks on their team are doing great things. And so, always advocate for yourself. And then make sure you're communicating with your leadership the types of things you want to work on. Maybe it's certain technologies, maybe it's certain roles, maybe you want to move to another team. If leadership doesn't know what you want to do when those opportunities come up, they may not think of you. So you may voice that you want to work on a certain technology or work in a certain area, and you may not get there right away, and that's okay. But make sure you're voicing what you want to do and the direction you want to take your career in. And at Avenatt, the leadership at Avenatt really does a great job of listening to everyone, right? And trying to put folks in areas where they want to be. And so it's a great place.
Thanks, Steve. Rogelio, did you want to answer that question too? And just to repeat it for the audience, is how do you advocate for yourself to superiors?
Well, it's pretty much as Steve stated. Ultimately, you're the only person who could blow your own horn. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to come to you and say, hey, I saw what you did there, because, well, we're in an environment where speaking, especially at Avenatt, right, it's advised strongly that if at any point you've done something new, something interesting, something creative to solve or uniquely address an issue, any thoughts that come to mind about how this issue may have been dealt with or something that you may have done prior to address it, it's important that you raise that point. In which case it'll shorten the amount of time spent trying to solve the problem. We are problem solvers. That is what we do. We are here to help the customer solve their problems. So very important that you speak up and, of course, get that feedback. Feedback is invaluable. It's important that you are now aware of how best you serve that need of the customer. So I agree with Steve wholeheartedly here. So that's pretty much that.
Thanks, Rogelio. The next question, Carrie, I think this is a good one for you and others. How can someone join the cloud security team? Is there anything you wish you knew before working within the cloud?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that. I would say as far as getting started in the cloud security team, as Karim mentioned earlier, we have our talent communities. And so we have a security talent community, which I'm a part of. And to be honest, the majority of the security work is cloud focused. So it's either going to be focused on more than likely, it'll be focused around Azure or O365. So it's not, I would say it's not necessarily a matter of getting on like a specific cloud security team. Those projects will flow in. That's how it happened for me. My first project was really, it was a cloud project for Azure, right? But it was more so infrastructure oriented. And then that snowballed into 2 additional projects that were still Azure related, but with security focus. And the way I got involved with that was our team, because we were there from the ground up, from the very beginning for the client, they allowed us to kind of pretty much say, okay, like, what do you want to do next? We have these opportunities. You can do some security stuff here. You can do some SecOps stuff there. You can do some governance stuff here. And I just raised my hand to my lead on the team and said, hey, I want to work on this security stuff in the next project. And that's how it happened. A lot of times projects will start off as one thing and there will be other opportunities that they snowball into. As far as the follow-up question, is there anything that I wish I knew before working within the cloud? I would just say in general, one thing that looking back that I would have probably done or tried to do before I started at Avenatt was get a fundamental cert in either Azure or Office 365. So, Azure has there's actually an Azure fundamental certification, the AZ900. So I probably would have gone for something like that. Starting out, on my way in the door, just I had some foundational understanding of cloud based on academia, right, in undergrad. But school is a little bit different. It's not always as in depth as you may need. And I would say that had I had a fundamental certification like that beforehand, I think it would have made me even more prepared than I was.
Steve, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, in regards to cloud security, so I lead teams of, on cloud transformation projects, and there's always a security component, right? We always need someone on the team that knows security, whether that's their first skill set or maybe their second skill set. So it's always there. If you want to go into cloud security, I would recommend just make sure you have a great understanding of kind of cloud in general and have a good generalist foundation understanding, right? And then go into the security aspect of it.
Thanks, Steve. And then what is it like, actually, we're going to pass this to you, Bammy. What is it like getting started with Avenatt? Whether it's onboarding, culture, if you can touch on those things, that would be great.
So getting started at Avenatt, and I think it would getting started anywhere, especially now where things are remote. I always say this: put your hands up. Find opportunities where you can contribute. Avenatt is really good that we have many different ERG groups, from Inspire to Adelante to the Women ERG group. So that would definitely be the first place to start. I know I first, here in Canada, the first thing that I did to kind of get myself out there was to host an event for the women's group. And that kind of gave me the confidence to keep doing things like that. But it was also a good way to meet other people as well. So just like in any community, find something that resonates with you. And then through there, you start to get more confidence, you start to build a network, and you just basically have to expand on that. For people who are, and I know this is not necessarily for new grads, but for people who are new in their career, so people who are less than a year, find opportunities to do things that you've never done before. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. I remember the first year at Avenatt, I was literally at the office every weekend, not because I didn't have a life, but I was soaking it up in, we get to do all these Microsoft certs for free. So it's an opportunity just to start to build your knowledge. I think a strong foundation is the start to anything that's going to be successful. And you might get a project experience where you're learning things or where you're working on technologies that you want to, and you may not. And so it's just using all the resources available to you and making the most of it.
Thanks, Bammy. And we only have a few minutes left, but I want to get to one final question, and this is going to be for you, AJ. Are there any specific or technical skills that you recommend?
So Carrie touched on it in her previous answer. Again, I would recommend getting any of the fundamental Microsoft certifications. I would also look into getting Scrum certifications, because Avanade tries to work towards an agile Scrum methodology. So those are what I would recommend, basically. So get Azure experience, Azure technical skills, but specifically look for Microsoft fundamental certifications, and also look and see whether getting Scrum certifications are like a Scrum developer certification, depending on what kind of talent community you're looking to get involved in. That's my recommendations.
Thank you. I really thank everyone for your time today. We have 2 minutes to spare. Corinne, are there any final thoughts from you?
Just thank you to each of our panelists. As they mentioned, all of them did this as a +1, and I just appreciate each of you sharing your stories and being so authentic. So thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for joining. We hope you found it valuable.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everyone.